Hello and welcome back to Seaside Garage. This video will be a little bit different than normal videos on my channel because this will be the Animal Planet edition. A Jag. This is a 1999 Jaguar XK and I'm told it's the 4-liter one. The plastic does say 3.2, but apparently it's the 4-liter one. It's here, it's not mine, even though I really think it's a cool car. It's maybe a bit too new. For me, it's only like 25 years old. But the problem is, it's a crank, no start. It was delivered here on a flatbed, and I was asked to see if I could make it run. It has been standing for quite a while. It has been started from time to time. Then when the owner tried to start it last time, there wasn't enough power. Then he charged the battery, and then what I was told was that it sounds like the starter is not engaging. Probably it's just the solenoid popping it out. That's something wrong with it. Maybe it's sticking. Maybe it just needs a whack with a hammer. Who knows? But the first thing I would like to do is to get it inside. And that is a bit difficult when the car doesn't run. But I have rigged up something special in my garage a while back because it's not rare that I get a car that doesn't run. And what I have is this. And just to make myself a little comfortable, I'm just going to put this on the seat and feel home. The problem I have with this wrench setup is that it's not remote controlled. And that would definitely be a good upgrade to make it remote controlled or have a longer wire. Yeah, it's going decently. There we go. Whoops. Back to park, ignition off. What an absolute beast to have inside of here. I gotta say, this is the absolute limit of my garage capabilities. I'd say it's the same size as a Saab 9.5 Estate that I have had in here quite a few times. This is the most powerful car that I have ever had inside the garage. My Saab 9000 Turbo Aero was 250 horsepower maybe. If this is actually a 4-liter, as the owner told me it is, even though it says 3.2 on the casing, if it's the 4-liter, we are talking 290 horsepower. And 0 to 60 in 6.9 seconds. And it's this huge, and it's 1.7 something tons. So it's a heavy car, it's a big car, and it's a really classy car, that's for sure. I like the look of this car, even though it's maybe a little bit too new for me, this design. I like it. It's cool, it's very cool. It's very far away from a hot hatch though. But anyway, I will hopefully start this up today and get it out again, because if I cannot get this to run, I'm gonna have a bad time getting this out of the garage again, that's for sure, because it's heavy, it's wide, yeah. But the first thing I would like to do is to just try to crank that engine and see how it sounds and see if it tells me anything. In a way, I just hope that a good knock on the starter will fix this problem. It will probably need taking out anyway and fixing up. That could be, normally it's not a big deal, but on this one being a V8 engine, it could be fiddly to get the starter out. We'll see. But let's just try and see how this cranky cat sounds. I'm pretty sure it's not battery power related. It could be low power also, but everything is really responsive and the fuel pump was sounding really strong. I doubt that's the issue. That was the sound of an engine spinning, but very easily. Being a 4-liter, I would expect some movement in the car and some resistance. That sounded like an engine with absolutely no compression, to be honest, and not a starter issue. I get why he would think it was just the starter spinning because it spins so freely. I'm Gonna open up the bonnet and make sure that the engine actually spins. And if it does that, then I'm gonna stop trying to start it, because there is also the possibility that this is a problem called bore wash. That is a quite common issue on these, especially since the story about it standing for a long time. Maybe it has been moved a little bit. I'm just gonna make sure that the engine actually spins. You want to see a detail that makes me want to throw my money at stuff? Having a bonnet open up that way makes my knees very soft. I don't know why, but it's really cool, and it's very... Oh, it's like my air bath. Maybe that's the reason. And even though this car is newish and it's from the plastic era, I like the look of this engine. It looks cool. I don't know how to identify whether it's actually SA 4.1 as the owner told me, or it's the 3.2 that the plastic states. But I think it was something that the plastic was just swapped for some reason, I don't know. But what I want to find out is if the engine is actually spinning. So I'm rigging up my skill light. And then I'm gonna rig the camera up to point at some of the spinny bits down there. Yeah, it definitely sounds like it's spinning, but I'm just gonna check the recording. I can confirm that the issue that the owner thought was the problem is not the case. The starter is spinning, he knew that, but it's also engaging into the ring gear and turning the engine. But it's turning the engine very easy, especially considering it's a V8. It feels like an engine without spark plugs in it. And these engines are known for something called bore wash, and I'm not going to attempt to be an expert on that subject, but these cylinders are made of nickel that tends to be washed by fuel. And if you start this engine up, it will overfuel quite a lot to begin with. That's kind of the choke mechanism. So if you fire it up and switch it off quickly, within a couple of minutes for instance, it will have overfueled the bores, and it will wash the bores clean of oil. And without oil, the rings won't really be able to seal, and therefore you will have no compression. When I first heard about that, I thought it sounded a bit weird, and also if that happened, it would probably score the cylinders quite quickly. But I do think that's the case in this instance. I think the bores are washed clean of oil, and it won't start because of that. That's my theory. And what I need to try to do is remove the spark plugs, add some oil to each cylinder, and then try to restart it. And if it starts, then I'm not going to switch it off before it's out of closed loop running. That means that it's actually up to temperature and all that. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm missing two of the bolts for the... I can't remember what's that called, the cassette. But this is direct ignition kind of stuff that I not normally are involved with. I have a harder time understanding how this can just happen and then fixed by adding oil. It's gotta be so harmful for the liners. I just hope for the owner of this car that he has not tried to crank it for too long, because it's gotta be hard on those walls running up and down without any kind of loop. But let's just hope for the best. I like big engines like these. I like to work on them. They feels almost like mythical creatures. That being said though, I do miss my small pushrod engines though, because this is just so complicated. Remember, I'm just trying to remove spark plugs right now. And so far, I'm not even at a point where I can remove spark plugs, but I have removed around 15 screws already. And I need another 15 to go before I start removing spark plugs. So that's the first glimpse of spark plugs. Hello, spark plug! And I can hear a voice in the back of my head screaming that I should just take these four out and squirt in some oil and then start it up. because it could probably start on those 4 and then kick the rest of them back into life. But I really don't think it's a good idea to run the other bank on dry walls. That was one side done. I'm going to do the same on the other side. I will just do it off camera. Unless something comes up, I will just remove those over there. I seem to be able to do it by removing the inlet, and then I should be able to remove the spark plugs over there. So see you in a bit when all spark plugs are out. All spark plugs are now removed, and I'm getting ready to squirt in some oil. I would like to mention that there is, of course, a catalytic converter on a car like this, and putting oil in the cylinders is not the greatest thing for the catalytic converter. On the other hand, trying to crank it at the moment, it will be pulling in fuel and it won't start. That is not good for the catalytic converter either. I'm pretty sure that I could get this started just by putting the throttle pedal to the floor and then just cranking until it starts. Small breaks in between, not to overheat the starter, of course, but I think that would build enough oil pressure to get it to lubricate the rings and all that. The problem with that thing is it could take a long time and it could end up just scratching the bores if it's really bad. So I like this way better, but I'm gonna add as little as I dare to do oil to the cylinders. I hope to put in enough because it takes a while to take everything off to get to the spark plugs. And if I put in too little, it won't help. And then we're back to zero. But when the engine fires up, it will have to burn the oil in the cylinder, and that will go through the catalytic converter, and it's not ideal. But it is what it is. I'm gonna do that by using this contraption with a bit of hose on, and then just put in a very tiny amount to each cylinder. I think the amount that I put in is around a tablespoon. So now I'm just going to put everything back together and then hopefully it will start. So be back in a second. I hope it just fires up within a couple of cranks. If not, then I will floor the throttle and keep on going for a bit. And hopefully the compression will build up and the engine will start. Sounds a little better, but still nothing happens. Full throttle. I can feel compression building, to be honest. Just gonna give it a break. I actually think it's close to happening again, because exactly what happened is what shouldn't happen, that it cuts out. Oh yeah! That did the trick. So it seems to indeed be bore wash that was the problem. It started up, it took a while to actually build the compression. Now that it has cooled down, I'm going to try again, because the problem could be back already, and then I don't really know what to do. But I hope that it will just fire up, and then I'm just gonna spin go for a short spin to make sure that everything works and so on. Let's see. Oh, by the way, I have a feeling that the exhaust system is not completely stuck. It's very noisy. Let's see. Key into the ignition. Yep, straight away. It fired up. And into drive, like that. I'm just gonna take it for a little spin. Just make sure that everything works. Listen to it. It's a pretty angry sounding engine. The brakes are there, feeling fine. Just making sure that everything works before I call the owner and ask him to pick it up again. It has been not driving for quite a while, so I better close the door, right? Like so. Oh, it's very silent inside, except the engine. But it feels right. It feels like everything works. And a bit later, the engine is up to running temperature. There's seems to be nothing wrong, and yeah, it's a pretty decent cruiser, I gotta say. And that noise, it is maybe a bit too much for me, but I really like the sound. It sounds awesome, but I would be a bit embarrassing pulling up to someone's house like this. Or maybe not. I love it. It sounds awesome. Wow, I'm just gonna put the windows down a bit just to get a bit more sound in here. Oh, it sounds nice. Anyway, it worked. It wasn't really what I was expecting. I was expecting a stock starter motor, but when I tried to crank it, it really felt like it was driving something more than just the starter, but it felt like it had absolutely no compression. And at first, my first thought was that maybe the cam belt or something had snapped. I don't even know if it's chain or cam belt. And maybe all the valves for some reason were wrecked, but it just didn't really make sense. And then I just did a bit of Googling, and it turned out that this car is notorious for bore washing, and that was exactly what was the problem. So anyway, thanks for watching this video on a pretty non-seaside garage car. It was fun, and see you in the next one.